Hey guys, welcome back to Bibliophile Reads. I'm Courtney, and today you're joining me for my April wrap-up. This was kind of a struggle bus month. It was really busy at work, and I was having a hard time finding some great books, but I did end up reading a good amount of books for the month for myself. I think if you've been following my channel, I think some of the issue I'm having is that there are so many books that are like set to come out, especially around April through July, that I find myself just waiting for the next new release to come out. And so that's kind of been stalling me a little bit. But I also have been really trying to intentionally slow down my reading this year, as well as infuse some different types of books. And I think I'm doing a really great job with that. So that is also affecting how many books I'm reading and the pace at which I'm reading. But it's all good. So let's start off with some stats. This month I read 10 books. I read 3,469 pages. My highest rated book was a 5-star, and then my lowest rating book was a 3-star. So that's not too bad. 3 stars is right in the middle. It's a book I would still recommend. So overall, I would consider this a great reading month for myself. So let's go down the list to tell you about what I read. I was a little bit spotty on videos this month because it had just been so busy, but I will go through what I read, what I thought about it as much as I remember. If I don't remember a lot about the book, it's because it wasn't that great. So I started off the month with a book called Bye Baby by Carola Lovering. I think that's how you say her name, or Carola Lovering. This book I had spotted on, it was one of the add-on books for Book of the Month Club for April. However, it happened to be on Kindle Unlimited, so I was really excited that I didn't have to pay for it and I could just read it on Kindle Unlimited. This book, I guess I would label it like a thriller, mystery, suspense. And this book follows two best friends, Billy and Cassie. They've been friends forever. And as they get older, they're around their mid-30s, they're starting to drift apart a bit. And Billy is maybe more invested in the friendship than Cassie. Cassie kind of feels maybe like Billy is I'm not obsessed with her, but just like she's ready for Billy to like live her own life and not be so concerned with her. And so throughout the course of the story, we get to find out how Billy and Cassie came to be best friends and a lot of secrets that they hold for each other. And this is why Billy is so connected to Cassie. And in the book, the major kind of thing that's going on is that Billy has kidnapped Cassie's baby while they're at a party that Billy was not invited to. And so that is on like the back of the book sort of synopsis. It's not telling the story, but that's kind of where we see how Billy is, and her purpose for stealing the baby is really to get attention from Cassie. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I thought it was really compelling. It was just a different book than I'd ever read. It kind of reminded me of like Single White Female in the sense that it was somebody wanting to be engulfed in somebody else's life. They didn't want them there. Once you start uncovering, it's kind of like an onion book. Once you start kind of uncovering all of the secrets that the two held for each other, you can see why they're so connected. And then you kind of can see why Billy is expecting more of a friendship from Cassie than Cassie's offering, because they have been through so much. So I highly recommend this book. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it still is on Kindle Unlimited. If you don't and you have Book of the Month Club, that's also something you can get from there as well. Next up, I read The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This was a new release this month. Super excited to pick this one up. And this book is in the same universe as The Cheat Sheet, which I also liked. And this book follows Nora and Derek. Nora is a sports agent and Derek is an NFL player. They dated in the past and Nora dumped him in a really poor way. He's still kind of upset about it, but she needs Derek as her first client so she can kind of launch her own career. So they do decide to work together, but they create sort of a rule book around like how they will work with each other, how things won't get personal, like they won't be dating, no kissing, no physical, nothing. And then they go to a trip to Vegas and they wake up married. And from there, they kind of toss the rules aside. They start trying to rekindle what they had. And so I thought it was really cute. I gave this book 4 stars. I pretty much like anything Sarah Adams writes. I think that her writing style is nice. Her books are a good length. And it's just entertaining. They're old-fashioned, like just straight romances. But I thought it was a really good book, so I do recommend it. Next, I read The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. And I have to correct my stats because this was my lowest rated book of the month and I gave it 2 stars. This book is all a part of the Dial A for Aunties sort of series. And if you've been following them, they're little cozy mysteries that have Meddy as the main character, and she is in her late 20s, early 30s, and she's surrounded by her aunties, and they get into these sort of mishaps, and they have to work themselves out of it. I did not love this book, and I was excited about it because it was new, but when I went back to the other books in the series that I've read, I didn't love really any of them. I think what doesn't do it for me in this setup is that Meddy always has to save the day. The aunts are kind of meddling aunts that get into everything, and it just doesn't seem very realistic, and so it's not my favorite, but it is a cozy mystery if you like that. It is kind of funny. There's a lot of there's a little romance situation in there too. I didn't really enjoy it. So in this book we have so if you've been in the series, you know, like Meddy's recently gotten married and they're trying to start their own life, but they go back to Jakarta for just to visit family, and the second aunt receives a gift from maybe a suitor that might like her, and in the pile of gifts is also something that wasn't for the aunt, it's for some sort of bad person in an organization of some sort. And so Meddy and the aunts try to like return that gift, and of course there's danger that ensues with that, and they have to hatch a plan to get out of this. And so it's just that same theme over and over, but it's just not, it's not that exciting anymore, but also it wasn't super intriguing. I think Jessie Q. Sutanto really does a lot better in the YA area. I love her YA books, but this Dial A for Aunties series just never hit for me. I think this is the last one in the series. There's 3, and so that might be a wrap on this series, but I would love to see her write more YA stories. I don't want to bash any writer or author, but I don't know that I could recommend this book. I gave it 2 stars, but again, always check for yourself. Check it out on Goodreads to see if it is a plotline that you might like. Next up, I read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I was anxiously awaiting this book. It was in Book of the Month Club's lineup, so I was excited to pick that up. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. And this book follows Justin and Emma. Justin and Emma both, I think they met online, like on a Reddit thread, yes. And they both are dating people or have dated people, and after they break up with those people, the very next person they date, they get married to. And so they figure that if they date each other, then once they're done dating each other, the very next person they date will be their soulmate and they'll be married. So they hatch a plan to sort of spend some time together and date. Emma is a traveling nurse, and she was going to go to Hawaii, but why go to Hawaii when you can meet Justin in Minnesota? And so that's what they do. And it's supposed to be just for the summer, but obviously they start having feelings for each other. And that leads to, you know, the romance element of it. I love the setting of the book. I live in Minnesota. Abby Jimenez is from Minnesota. And so like when they're talking about the places, like I know these places, so that's kind of cool. But the only reason this book did not get 5 stars was because there was this back plot about Emma's mom, and the mom in the book is so toxic, and she, let's see, she pops in and out of the book, and Emma is trying to have faith in the mom to do the right thing. She doesn't do the right thing, and it's a lot of cleanup mess. There was probably about 100 or 150 pages that could have been cut from this book because it was about that scenario, and it didn't really add anything to the storyline, like the plot A between Justin and Emma. It just gave character building for Emma, and so unless Emma's going to be in another book, I don't think we needed so much information about the mom plot. Some people might really like the mom plot. I just didn't care for it because I think it just went really left out of what the story was about. But overall, a really good book, 4 stars, highly recommend. Next up, I read Ace of Spades, and this was my highest read book this month. I gave this 5 stars. This book was such a good book. I was actually recommended this book after I read We're Not Like Them by Joe Piazza. I was telling my coworker about it, and she had recommended Ace of Spades. I'm so glad that I picked up that recommendation. I actually showed that in a book haul because I had purchased the book. I wanted to support the author. But this book follows Devin and Chiamaka. They are some of the few or maybe 2 only Black students at this private academy. They're both made to be head girl and head boy within the school, but as they get that recognition, little bits and pieces about their personal life start coming out that are not great for their character, and they are quickly bonded together because they realize that somebody's out to get them. I can't say too much because it will give the story away, but this book definitely reminded me of like a written version of the movie Get Out. The social commentary in this book is remarkable. The story does take a little bit to get started, so give it at least the first 70 pages to get going, but then it just speeds up and you just can't put it down. There's lots of twists and turns in this book, but not in an arbitrary way, in a way that keeps you going. So I highly recommend this book. I also plan to read her next book, the author's next book, Where Sleeping Girls Lie. However, that book is so much like this book that I need to give it just a little bit of time, but it's a great plot. It's giving Hogwarts, it's giving Gossip Girl. It is a really, really great book. So I highly recommend it. Next up, I read the book Mom Jeans and Other Mistakes. This book is by Alexa Martin. I picked this book randomly at Barnes & Noble one day. I was looking in the romance section and Alexa Martin jumped out at me because she wrote The Neighbor Nemesis and Better Than Fiction. I liked Neighbor Nemesis. I did not like Better Than Fiction, but I thought I would give this one a chance. It was in romance section, but it's really more of a literary fiction book. This follows Jude and Lauren, lifelong friends who have both kind of hit snags. Jude is trying to find her way a bit. She's like a Pilates instructor. She's all about vibes and just like having a peaceful space, but she's not making a lot of money. And Lauren has a 5-year-old. It's just getting out of a horrible divorce, and so they decide to move in together. And we just follow their journey throughout the book of living together, ups and downs in their own friendship, each other's personal issues. Jude has some family issues that she's working on, and then Lauren, of course, is working to earn custody of a child. But I ended up giving this 3 stars. I thought it was just okay. I can't remember anything that stuck out that was particularly really good about this book. I thought sort of the argument back and forth between the custody was not something that I was super interested in. And then Jude's storyline also wasn't that great. And so I gave it 3 stars. I think I really like the way Alexa Martin writes, but the only story that I really liked from her is that Neighbor Nemesis. And so I don't know if I'm going to pick up more books from her. But I'm glad I gave this one a shot. I would recommend it. It just wasn't my favorite. Okay, next up, I read Babysitters Club book number 35, and that is Stacy and the Mystery of Stonybrook. If you've been following my channel, you know I am rereading the Babysitters Club books in publication order, and I'm on book number 35, obviously. Or is this 36? I think this is book 36. Let me go back and see. No, it's 35. Okay, I'm on book 35, and I've taken a little break from reading it just because I've diversified some of what I'm reading, but I know I'll pick back up. But this book is really about, it's a Stacy book. I love Stacy and her books, but I did not love this one. I gave it a 3-star, which is the lowest I'll give a Babysitters Club book. But this book starts with Charlotte Johansson, one of the babysitting charges, staying at Stacy's house while her parents are out of town, which is already like a red flag, kind of weird to me. But they get kind of spooked out because on Stacy's block, an old house is being gutted and they're going to put up condos, but then creepy stuff starts happening around. And so they're trying to investigate what's going on. Christy's like, you know, the house has been built on a graveyard. We got to solve this. And so that's pretty much what The Haunting is. I just didn't love it. I don't have that much to say about it. I just didn't love it. And so 3 stars, but it's part of the series, so we just keep pushing. Next up, I read the book The Quit List. This book is on Kindle Unlimited. It's by Katie Bailey. I gave it 3 stars. This book was just mid, and I was really grasping at straws at this point to find a good book that I could sink my teeth in. This book follows Holly and Jax. Jax is a bartender who sees Holly on a horrible date and interrupts the date for her, and then he sees her someplace else and sort of does the same thing. And Holly decides that she will let Jax kind of enter her world in life and let her know who would be a good fit for her, because it seems that the dates that he's interrupted were a good idea and they weren't good people. So she thinks that Jax would do a better job finding her next boyfriend. And so they start, going through that sort of series of hanging out. Obviously, they get closer and start dating themselves. So basic romance, 3 stars, nothing to phone home about, but it's on Kindle Unlimited, and why not check it out? Next up, I read Something Red, Something Dead by Eva Gates. This is part of the Lighthouse Library Mystery. I think this is the 5th book. I gave this book 3 stars. I really do like the Lighthouse Mystery series, or the Lighthouse Library Mystery series, and I like Eva Gates' writing. She is doing cozy mysteries, and the main character is a librarian who lives inside of a lighthouse. It's like the lighthouse has a library in it, and then above the library is her apartment, which I think is just so precious and enchanting. But this book basically follows our main character, Lucy. Her cousin's getting married, and they're trying to do all the wedding planning, and one of the wedding planners drops dead. And then also they find that there's something wrong within the foundation of the lighthouse, and so Lucy's trying to solve the murder and figure out how to save the library because it's not on steady ground. Again, 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite in the series, but I still recommend it because it's a really cute series, especially if you love the library setting. It's set in North Carolina, so you have all that sort of like beach scenery in the background, and it's just really well written. All right, the last book that I read this month was Funny Story by Emily Henry. I had been waiting for this book, so I was so excited to get it. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really wanted to give it 5, but it ended up being more like a 3.75 to 4 star. I don't know. It's somewhere within that range, but on Goodreads, I marked it as a 4 star. This book follows Miles and Daphne. Miles is dating a girl named Petra. Petra is best friends with Daphne's fiance, Peter. So Peter and Petra have known each other their entire life. And right before Daphne is ready to start settling in to make arrangements for the wedding, Peter breaks up with her to start a life with Petra. He thinks that he has found the love of his life and is making a mistake marrying Daphne. So Daphne and Peter live together. So now Petra's moving in with Peter, and Daphne has no place to go. So she moves in with Miles, because Miles and Petra shared an apartment, and so now Miles needs a roommate to cover the other half of the rent, so Daphne has a place to stay. So that's kind of where it starts. And through the course of the book, we get Daphne and Miles, forced proximity, and some fake dating, and they decide to fake date to make Petra and Peter jealous. But their fake dating is not just like a picture on Instagram. It's like fully making out in public spaces so everybody can see it. And then they start to get to know each other and take time to spend more time within the apartment together. I thought the book was really cute. I think it had, of course, that 3rd act breakup that I didn't need. But it took me about 3 days to read the book, which is a little bit longer than I generally like for this kind of book. But overall, it was pretty good. I think Emily Henry is an auto-buy author for me every time, so I'm just always going to buy it. I just wish it was a 5 star, and that's the same for Just for the Summer with Abby Jimenez. All of these books that came out, I was so excited for this month, and none of them were a complete 5 star, which is a little bit disappointing, but it was still a good read, and I highly recommend. So those are all the books that I read this month. I really think it was a great month, and I'm looking forward to jumping into middle grade May next month, and I'll have an announcement video coming about that later this week, so make sure you check that out. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you read this month and what you think about the books that I read. And until next time, bye guys.